Welcome into Extreme Talk presented by GracePointe Healthcare. $20 off your new patient office visit fee if you request your appointment at GracePointeHealthcare.com. Modern medicine the old-fashioned way. We are fueled by Fairlife Core Power Protein, financially supported in part by First Horizon, and sponsored by Crumble Cookies and Iceberg Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Welcome everyone watching or listening around the world. Spencer Thompson alongside Brendan Daniel, and from afar calling in for, we need to have a tracker for how many times James has had to call in the show at this point. He's a busy man.
We're at 4.
About four, five.
4 or 5.
I think 4 or 5 times he's called in. 1 or 2 shows he's had to be completely absent for. But, you know, James is a busy man. That's why he works behind the scenes and still gets to participate in the show. But James, on call as he is with his normal job. But how's the new house so far with getting everything settled in?
Well, let's just say I was trying to keep up with the Tennessee-Alabama game last night at the same time as changing out my bathroom fan. And those two things combined were not working out. And I had a buddy call me as soon as Alabama started to pull away, and I just ignored his call. It had nothing to do with the game. It was that daggum fan. And so I called him back. I said, dude, I'd have snapped on you. Said I had to just hang up and call you back later. Stupid fan. Still didn't get it working, but it's changed out.
Appreciate all of you who are tuning in live with us right now. Second week in a row. We will be back to our regularly scheduled time of 4 p.m. Central next week. As you can see by the bow tie and the suit and everything, I have a wedding to go to at 3:30 today. So again,
Talk about a busy man.
Yeah, you have no idea. 12-hour ride.
You're lucky you live 20 minutes from the studio.
You're absolutely right, but yeah, had 12 hours yesterday of ride sharing in Nashville. The streets, as usual, packed to the max, and
it's a big game today.
Oh yeah. That was the interesting part. I was telling you guys this before the show. James didn't catch it, but with every rideshare was doing, at least every corner, 5-10 people with a Kansas City Chiefs shirt on or jersey on or something like that. I even had 2 customers in the back of my car who had got Section 109 seats at Nissan for the game, and they were like, cheap tickets and such. It was just the fees that got to us, but we just flew in today. We've enjoyed our Nashville visit and such. Which Nashville is really a tourist attraction now. It really is the place to go for people out of town and such. But for people like James, they prefer just to enjoy Nashville when it's not incredibly crowded.
When I'm working, I'm starting a project in Bowling Green, Kentucky this week, and I'm ecstatic. Not only because it's only 30 minutes from my house, because I don't have to go anywhere near downtown.
Other than the taxes getting to you, right?
Yeah, the taxes are pretty stupid.
I may have that trouble myself because I had a rideshare that I dropped off in Hopkinsville, Kentucky one night. So I'm wondering how the earning stuff goes with that. I think it technically is from the place of origin, to my knowledge, but we'll see how Uber handles that.
I think it would be.
Yeah, I think place of origin is where it'll end up there. But who knows? I'll figure that out. But
Brendan, congratulations.
On what?
Derrick Henry with a touchdown.
Hey, that's for me too. It's not just him. I got Derrick Henry on my fantasy league. Also, I made out like a bandit on my fantasy league this week. I got Travis Kelce and Jalen Hurts and the Saints defense all on my team now. All my backup such. So man, I got a little stride in my step, a little swag.
Brendan, Derrick Henry has a passing touchdown.
Oh, he better get points for that.
Look at him. Look at this.
Look at this
man.
Yeah, look at this man. He's Derrick Henry. Congratulations. But all right, well, all of the NFL football action is going on right now, which, you know what, I should actually get Red Zone going on now. Maybe Audrey will get that set up for us if she remembers how. But
she was trying to earlier. She was having issues.
Yeah, smaller remote, actually, breaking the fourth wall. It's
slacking.
a smaller remote. Well, Red Zone wasn't on until right when we start with the show. But anyways, let's recap your action from Week 11 of the 8-man football season. We start with the Fighting Rangers of Southern Prep, 51-40 over Trinity. And, James, we saw Southern Prep a few weeks ago, had a close matchup against Calhoun County, and it's just in everything that they do. They're very much they're very much skilled. A lot of great efforts from them. And again, Southern Prep doesn't post their stats until about Wednesday, so we can't really highlight the specific players and how well they did during this game. But you can tell by the scoreline, you can be pretty confident that Wolf had a hand in those touchdowns.
Oh, 100%. Him and Ernest Moore, taking that loss last week to Ezekiel, they had to bounce back. And I mean, they bounced back in a huge way. It's against a team that doesn't have the greatest track record this season, but hey, a dub's a dub, and they're trying to build momentum as they go into play Evangel this week, and then I believe they have a week off, and then go to potentially go to Florida. I know two teams are locked in to go to Florida. For sure, they've announced that they are going. So, and I would assume Evangel. Again, I would assume Evangel's going to defend their title.
What are those two teams, James?
Freedom announced that they are locked in to go, and Grace officially confirmed they're going.
Hey, finally, Grace. Yeah.
James didn't see it. The audience saw it. I walked off camera for getting this Sunday ticket set up, but we saw that announcement. We were talking about Grace. More than likely, they were going to reserve and everything. But now that they're locked in to head down to Panama City Beach, first off, great coaching staff. I can't wait to hang out with their coaching staff in Florida. That's going to be awesome. But
I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot.
Oh yeah, you're going to get about that humble pie and such. But more importantly, it's this collective team deserves it, especially with the struggles they've had in 11-man in the last several years, and to finally make the move and going undefeated. I'm not going to try to get too ahead of myself here, but in 2017, Christian Community lost in the state championship by 3 points. They still went down to Florida and won the national championship. Even if Grace were to lose the state championship, which, depending on how they perform next week in their rematch against FCA, it's their championship to lose at this point. But I think for Grace, whether they are victorious or they don't win in the playoffs or in the championship, it's still Florida's an experience they absolutely deserve, because this collective bunch, they have very much put in the effort and everything to make it down to Panama City Beach, and I'm just really excited to see how this is going to play out.
Absolutely.
No, they should be real good, and I'm really hoping we get a Grace Freedom matchup.
Oh yeah,
that would be incredible.
And you think about it as well with how I know the NHSA hasn't officially come out with their bracket yet, but it could be there are talks about a Division II bracket happening for the tournament this year, where they had the D2 tournament in 2019. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and maybe a Freedom, especially with that win. I think they've solidified their number one slot there, but it's exciting to think about with the Florida stuff, and we'll talk about the NHSA rankings. But in terms of Southern Prep, they're probably going to be down there as well. Maybe in the Division II bracket, maybe they'll be at in that Division I bracket, depending on how things play out with the seeding. But should be exciting with all the teams that we'll get to see in Florida.
Oh yeah.
Well, and if they look.
Go ahead, James.
Sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead, James.
No, I was going to say, especially if they don't beat Evangel. I mean, that's 3 losses on the year, 2 and 8-man, 1 to Ezekiel, 1 to Evangel. So I think they have to go to the D2 bracket. I don't see. I love Southern Prep, but I don't know how they would compete. I'm not saying they couldn't, but I don't know how they would compete with Evangel, especially, like I said, if they lose Friday, and then also Grace and Freedom.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But in terms of Southern Prep, congratulations to them on their victory against Trinity, 51-14. They conclude the regular season on the road to the Evangel Christian School Lightning, which if Southern Prep could beat Evangel, maybe they'll make a solid case for the D1 tournament. Who knows? But we'll see how that plays out. In terms of the rest of the games that do not have any playoff implications or anything like that, the Tennessee Heat traveled down to Pinson, Alabama to collide with the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors, 13-40. And the Tennessee Heat, unfortunately, the struggles just continue for them, with not being able to get as many victories. It's reflective of the 2019 season where they really had their struggles. But Brendan, it's it's a testament to Coach JJ Duarte and company because they've really poised themselves as a team that is now a force to be reckoned with in not just the ACSC but around the rest of the teams in the Southeast. That culture is being built. The culture is definitely showing how strong it is, and now for the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors, it'll be interesting to see how they go down the stretch.
Absolutely, but I think they'll be just fine. They played a great team last week, so I'm sure that was kind of like a little humbling moment for them to kind of get prepped for the future games along the way. But great game against Tennessee Heat. Of course, Tennessee Heat just keeps struggling, and hopefully they'll figure it out here soon.
James, what you got on the Heat Lighthouse game?
I mean, I hate that Lighthouse's season is over. I'd love to see the guys play. Even a couple more times. Would be great. But I mean, the guys that they needed to show up showed up in terms of Lighthouse. You had Preston Graham throwing for 2 touchdowns and rushing for a touchdown. You had Ben Hirsch with a rushing touchdown, and then for the Heat, Luke Matthews threw 2 touchdown passes, one to Luchtefeld, one to Martinez. So I mean, it was only 28-13 at halftime, and then after that, it was all Evangel, or I'm sorry, all Lighthouse. 2 touchdown passes for Elliot Knowles, and then he added a rushing touchdown. So a good showing for Lighthouse and for the Heat. I mean, again, the amount of injuries they have, they just got had another guy get injured, one of their seniors, and it's when the injury bug bites, it takes no prisoners.
I just want to mention Luke Matthews. Like in the future, I'm sure the kid's going to be a great superstar with 2 touchdowns, and he's had a good, great couple of games. It's just when you have talent that's been hurt around the this season, it's kind of hard. But I'm sure this young talent coming in with Tennessee Heat, I'm sure they'll be a great team like next year and years to come.
Well, you have Luchtefeld, who's only a junior, I believe. Let me just very,
Oh yeah,
Yep, he's only a junior. Luke Matthews is only a freshman.
Yep.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like the young guys definitely putting in the work and definitely getting better will have a big, big impact next year and years to come.
Hmm. Yeah.
When it seems like their line is set up really well. I mean, most of their line are only sophomores or juniors, so I mean they've still got some future ahead of them.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Congratulations to the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors. Their regular
Hey, and
season is over as they get the victory over the Tennessee Heat. As for the Heat, they continue their season and they close out. They had the regular season closed out essentially in on Friday night, but now they will host the Freedom Cowboys for the third edition of the Independence Bowl. James, you have one more thing?
yeah, I was going to point out. I mean, the Heat's middle school. I know we don't really talk about middle school, but Heat's middle school only has one loss on the year to Providence, and they've played CCS, South Haven. I mean, all of those conference teams that have middle school programs. So they've only lost to Providence, who are playing for the championship. I believe tomorrow night or Tuesday night. So I mean, they've got a lot of promise in the youth coming up.
Yeah, they absolutely do. As we move on, the Ezekiel Academy Knights got the victory at home against the Southern Christian Patriots, 40-6. Ezekiel Academy just again firing on all cylinders as they continue to make their push down to Florida for the national championship. And Ezekiel Academy, they also have a bye week heading into the state championship, which seems that seems very apt and very fitting for what the for the challenge they have ahead against Evangel. But Brendan, for Ezekiel Academy, we've seen them once this year. We saw how they performed against the Tennessee Heat, and this just seems like clockwork as usual for Ezekiel.
And I saw that I think James, you posted on the A Man Extreme story that Richardson hit how many yards did you say?
That was Corey Murphy.
Corey Murphy. I'm sorry, Corey
Yeah,
Murphy.
Murphy set the single season rushing record
Mm-hmm.
for Ezekiel. Let me see if I can get exactly how many yards it was.
While you're doing that, the kid just amazing, man. Just he has a bright future. I hope he gets somewhere where he can play, even if it's like a little Division 1 school. And I'm sure Peyton Leach, the amazing quarterback that he is, had a great game as well. That defense just showing how great they are. Like I said, Richardson probably one of the best defensive linemen in 8 man out here. And I just can't wait to watch these guys in Florida.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have the exact rushing number or yardage number, but yeah, single season rushing record for Ezekiel.
Hmm.
The record broken by Murphy the other night. That's huge.
A huge record and a huge win for Ezekiel Academy as they head into the bye week and then will play the state championship at home against the Evangel Christian School Lightning. So
Hey, we
congratulations
saw
to
how that went for Ezekiel last year.
we definitely saw that home game against the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors in the state championship. We saw how that played out. So maybe another case for that, but again, a rematch against Tim Smith and company. We'll see how it goes. And now we move on to the games that affected the playoff seedings for the ACSC, which it was only one. With the Evangel Christian School Lightning got the victory over East Central Homeschool 41-13. So locks them in as the number 2 seed, and number 1 seed is the Ezekiel Academy Knights. But 41-13 in victory for it. The Lightning, Tim Smith, ever since they took those losses on the year to both Ezekiel and to Grace Baptist, they've learned from it. They've adjusted, and it's very much shows how Tim Smith, Hagen Joyner, all the coaching staff, James, they know how to make the proper adjustments going down in the year. And once again, they're 3-time defending national champions, just as dangerous as ever as they make the push for Panama City Beach.
Well, and this was an East Central team that was coming off that loss to Lighthouse that we covered. They've come off a couple tough losses. Overall, their season um, has gone a little bit better than it has in the past. I think. I mean, they had some close losses, and then they did run into Freedom in Ezekiel and Evangel. So I mean, and of course Lighthouse, but those are tough opponents. But then against the teams that are kind of on the same level as them, maybe a little bit lower, they handle business. So a lot of promise for Coach Michael Long and Essential, but for Evangel rather, I mean it was just handling business. It was a home game for East Central. Evangel had to go on the road, and they got the job done.
Absolutely, that absolutely did. And Brendan, we saw Evangel early on in the year, and you saw that tough loss to Grace Baptist and the bounce back and everything. But what impressed you most about this one?
This one to me is just learning how to take a win on the road, which is a big thing for any team that's away. But honestly, they're probably waiting to get ready for Ezekiel Academy, and they probably put in as many schemes as they can. They probably took this as, oh, we're playing Ezekiel Academy. So now is okay. Now it's time to get ready for Ezekiel Academy, and then I'm sure they'll be looking forward in Florida to look at Grace Baptist as well to get both revenge wins.
Hmm. And that's the question as well, with them being the number 1 and 2 seeds right now. More than likely, you see them match up against each other in the national championship. That rematch would be impressive. And
Lovely.
repeat of 2019, where we had Evangel and Ezel Harding face off in the regular season, and then rematch in the national championship. So who knows what's to come from this contest and the matchups in Panama City Beach. Should be interesting.
Yeah, and that's if they're able to get past Freedom and Grace, their Spence.
That's
That
true.
is true.
Both those teams have to handle business, and that's if we don't get that matchup in the first round.
More than likely, we wouldn't because of them being number
And
1 and 2 seeds right now. But things could change.
things could change based off of how Evangel does this week, and then obviously we saw the state championship. And honestly, I think if Ezekiel doesn't win that state championship, I think they go D2, just because they know that, hey, listen, yeah, we beat them earlier this year, but Evangel got this win. It gives Ezekiel uh, 2 losses, 3 losses, and I think that pushes them to D2.
That does make sense.
Yeah,
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 and that puts probably Southern Prep in there for
possibly,
Division One.
possibly.
Well,
Why we're
the
not
other
committed.
the other caveat to that is you look at the other conference in Alabama, the CFA, and right now you have Evangel Montgomery and Russell, who I believe Russell's ranked third, if I'm not mistaken. Spence, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
What was your question again?
Russell, where is Russell ranked?
They are, at least on the latest NHSA rankings. They are If we look at the latest photo they had,
I think they're third.
right now they're third seed.
And then you have Evangel Montgomery at 6-1 currently, and I don't know how they did Friday night. I think they lost, but I'll check on that. But depending on how that championship game goes, it's probably going to end up. I know they do a 14 playoff,
Mm-hmm.
so if you can get Russell and Evangel Montgomery wins. Of course, Russell's not going to go to Florida,
Evangel
but
Montgomery lost 28-22 to Tuscaloosa Christian.
ooh, that's a bad loss.
Yeah.
Because Tuscaloosa Christian isn't that good. So again, depending on how their playoffs go, and if Evangel Montgomery can win that championship,
Mm-hmm.
I almost think that if Ezekiel loses their state and Evangel Montgomery wins their state, I think that puts them in D1. So you would have them, Freedom, Grace, and Evangel. You'd have both the Evangels.
Depends on how
That'd
it
be
plays
confusing.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be confusing for sure, but we'll see how it plays out. But at least in terms of Friday night, congratulations to Ezekiel Academy. They got congratulations to Evangel. They got the victory over East Central Homeschool 41-13. They close out the regular season where they host the Fighting Rangers of Southern Prep Academy.
Spence, can you imagine if we get both Evangels matching up in D1 in Florida?
I can imagine it. I don't want to because of the nightmare calling touchdown Evangel.
You would have to say Lions and Lightning,
yeah,
and even then, that's tough.
yeah. You have to make the distinction. I'm sure the jerseys will help with that, but let's just hope that doesn't happen. All right. Speaking of Lions, we had the Lions rematch for the second week in a row. So the TSIAA listened to us because the update was Zion Christian and Franklin Classical. To my knowledge, they both opted to just take the fines and not participate in Division II because Zion Christian did not practice for 2 weeks. They had no interest in playing another football game. And to my knowledge, Franklin Classical either didn't have the personnel for it or they only had 8 players. So for them to play a semi against likely would be Providence Christian when the fate would already be set for that, no interest to them. So they opted to be out. The conference listened. The Division II championship was moved back to the first round of the playoffs, so no extra rest for the teams who were participating in that D2 championship. So Providence Christian, they are not state champions, and they made that distinction on their social media profile. 32-14, they got the victory over the Lighthouse Christian School Lions, and the matchup going back to Providence, which is weird because we were told originally if it was the number 4 seeds in the South and North facing off, it would be hosted by the North team. And so Providence Christian got 2 home games in a row against the same team, and then essentially got the same result. So interesting tidbit there. No statistics provided by other teams. Don't really know what happened in that game. I think we have maybe some scoring updates there, maybe some box score. But Providence Christian, in just their second year in existence, they have a trophy. They have a trophy, champions of Division II, best of the worst. But it's for Coach Ferguson and company. They're building a winning culture.
A trophy's a trophy.
Yeah, a trophy's a trophy, and they're building a winning culture as they head into their third year of existence in 8-man football. But interesting stuff all around leading up to this game here, Brendan.
Yeah, and this honestly is a big first step for winning culture. I mean, it's not where you want to be, but it's where you have to be. You have to take what you can get, and this is a big win for them. And I'm sure in the future, the kids will look onwards to like, hey, we beat these guys in Division II, no problem. I'm sure we can go in Division I and maybe cause a little bit of issues along the way.
All right, James. I know you have your thoughts and reservations about Division II, as we all do. But in terms of just this contest, a lot of interesting stuff in there. What was your takeaway from Providence's victory over Lighthouse?
Well, I mean, it was a lot closer than last week. The last time they played, I mean, it was only 12-6 at halftime, and then 3 second half touchdowns for Providence. They kind of closed the deal, but so it was a major shout out to Lighthouse, just showing up a lot more. And I think, I believe they were able to get some of their players back that were hurt in that first matchup. But I mean, shout out to Providence on a great second season. After going winless your first season, you come out, you get the wins that you need to get in the second. Everyone could talk about, well, the wins came against bad teams. Well, at least you beat those teams. You beat the teams you were supposed to beat. So shout out for that.
I think that, and also everyone that would have been in the Division Two playoff bracket, Providence defeated in convincing fashion. Because
They
Zion,
were all
yeah,
shutouts.
all of them shutouts. So at that point it's like why make Providence play the extra game when you know the outcome was essentially guaranteed? Again, as you mentioned, closer game in that game on Friday night, but interesting stuff for Providence. They beat all the rest of those teams.
And going off James' point of them beating bad teams and then losing against winning teams, they were pretty close. Like Lancaster, they lost 25-20.
Mm-hmm.
The only upset was, of course, well, not upset, but the only one that was really bad was Grace Baptist. I mean,
Yeah.
54-6. But it's like Christian Community, 38-30. So it's like really hold your head up.
Yeah.
You have a chance against other teams. If everything goes right, you probably would have won those.
What was
games.
their score on the Franklin Christian game?
Franklin?
It was 60-28.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was
Yeah.
a solid, loss. But you still put up 28 on FCA. There's some teams that can't claim that they did that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But congratulations to Providence Christian on finishing out their season as champions of Division Two. And
5-4 overall record.
yeah, 5-4. So they had a winning record as well to get that Division Two championship. And for Lighthouse, tough stuff in Coach Sean Bell's first season, but again, building a winning culture, and hopefully won't be on his fifth string quarterback at any point during the season next year. But congratulations to both the Lions organizations on their seasons. Yeah.
I mentioned the how Lighthouse was able to play better, and I just kind of want to put numbers to that. The first time they played, of course, Providence won 46-0, so it's 46-point spread difference. And then in that game Friday night, again 32-14, so only an 18-point difference, and three of those touchdowns came in the second half. So Lighthouse played them. Like I said, it was 12-6 at halftime. They played them real close.
James breaking the fourth wall here. AJ Brown just got a touchdown, corner in the end zone if it stands. So good stuff for both of our fantasy
How are
teams.
you going to beat me to that?
Because I've seen it here on the TV in Red Zone. But again, congratulations to Providence and Lighthouse Christian. All right.
Let's go.
For the state playoffs.
Let's go. I've got 18 points off AJ Brown. He's got 4 catches, 80 yards on the side. Let's go.
As for the true state championship playoffs, we start with the game in Smyrna. Lancaster Christian got the job done 44-14 against Ezel Harding. And it shows how Deuce Bragg changes a game. It shows how many people have a sigh of relief among the Lancaster Christian fan base because of Deuce Bragg because of his injury earlier on, just a few weeks ago, was not fully 100%, and now this game he looked at 100%. We at least got updates of who scored, and shout out to Coach Alan Smith for that, and got some updates from there. And James, you were following it all evening, and it was just Lancaster held control for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I thought maybe Ezel Harding going in, having Coach McGee back, having some of those injured players back. I was riding with my boys, Faisha, Melvin Cousins. My mind's drawn a blank. James Hyman, the big old boy up front. I was riding with the boys, and it just didn't work out for them. Lancaster just handled business, and so a big win for them. And in a situation that we've had ever since 2018. I think we've gotten a second round, or back when it was a 14 playoff, a first round matchup between CCS and Lancaster at CCS. It happens almost every year. It seems like an annual occurrence.
Fourth year straight, and we talked to Coach Flanders about it a few weeks ago when the playoff bracket was finalized, and he mentioned it's just destiny at this point for the Colts and the Knights to face off in the playoffs in some regard, because last year was in the first round, Lancaster won, and then. Same situation all around, but yeah, it's. I think one of the names, James, you were missing was Kalen Robinson for Ezel
Yes,
Harding.
thank you.
That was the other one you were missing there. But your thoughts, Brendan, from this convincing victory for Lancaster?
Yeah, I thought maybe Ezel Harding would make it a tad bit closer than they would, but of course, like you said, Bragg's out there. It's kind of hard for them to win. Because that kid just knows how to compete. He's a competitor. I'm sure he played his heart out. And the defense also did well in home back Cousins and that whole offensive scheme. But great win for Lancaster. Wish I could see that community calls. Boy, I bet that'd be a great
Well,
game.
hey, maybe John Horner and maybe the executive board will change their mind going into this
Man,
week.
ego is
Maybe they will, but it's
egos are a huge thing, though.
yeah, the egos and narcissism. But congratulations to the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights. They got the victory in the first round, and they move on to Christian Community and White House to collide in the semifinals, trying to change history so that they don't take another loss to Christian Community. They got their first victory at May Flanders Field last year, so looking to build off of that momentum to see if they can do that. It'll be tough, but
It might be harder in the playoffs.
it definitely will be. But for Ezel Harding, great season overall for you guys. Even being the 3 seed for all the cards you were dealt, great season for you all, and hopefully you could build off of that going into 2022. All right, we head on to the other side of the TSIAA bracket in the first round matchup. For the second time in the last 3 years, second time in the last 3 seasons, the South Haven Christian School Patriots are out in the first round, unfortunately. The playoffs for a game being hosted at home are not lucky in the first round. Second round last year, they won against Lighthouse, went to the state championship. But in the first round, it does not favor South Haven Christian when they are at home, unfortunately. They lost to Riverside in 2019, and now the loss to Franklin Christian 41-20 on Friday night. And I'll start with you on this, James. You were catching the broadcast that was going for that game and seeing the scoring updates happening from afar. And it very much shows how FCA, again, as we mentioned with everything involved, Tim Johnson mentioned he's just focused on winning a football game. And that's what all the players and the coaching staff was set out to do. They were focused on winning a playoff game. And you have to think as well for South Haven, maybe their spirits were not 100% crushed, but that loss to Lancaster the week prior had to have some effect on their tough loss at home against Franklin Christian.
South Haven's going to want to start looking into a field situation because playing a playoff game at MLK Park has not gone well for them, like you said, Spence. A big win for FCA. It was 6-6 at the end of the first, so I mean it was close, and then FCA made it was 35-6 before South Haven scored again. So 4 touchdowns for FCA, and then Sorto scored. Sorto ran for 2 and threw for 1, and then so they got that touchdown in the fourth quarter. FCA got another fourth quarter touchdown, so just kind of pulled away. But talked about it all year. You look at South Haven; they started off 5-0, started off strong, but they started off playing 5 teams who struggled all year. Zion, 1 win; Lighthouse, 2 wins; FCS, no wins; TSD, no wins. The Sacred Heart has kind of come on here at the end of the season and picked up a little momentum, but they lost to CCS playoff team. They barely beat Ezel Harding.
Yep.
I know they beat them by 3 scores. No, 2
Something
scores
like
on the road. So I mean that was a tight win. And then you mentioned the loss to Lancaster, but they also had the 2-week layoff between the Ezel Harding and the Lancaster game, and then they lose Lancaster. So I know they had stuff going on. The church and the school were very close. So that affects your scheduling a little bit, but you got to wonder if that had any effect on that game.
Yeah, you have to wonder on that. But Brendan, for Franklin Christian, haven't seen them all year in terms of broadcast coverage, but for them to get this victory in this fashion sets up for a really good rematch in the semifinals.
Absolutely. And like I said, the only way to cure a dark cloud is to win, and that's exactly what they did. I'm sure they're looking forward to get a revenge play against Grace Baptist, but for this game, I feel like they saw that South Haven kind of struggled with the passing game, so maybe, I don't know how Franklin Christian plays, maybe they did that and kept the passing game kept going, but interesting what they do wherever day they play.
Especially in Ottawa, that matchup they had against Grace. Grace got the victory on the road, so now at home, it's setting up for a really intense semifinal for the TSIAA. So congratulations to the Falcons on getting the on paper upset against South Haven. They face off against the Golden Eagles for a rematch in what was a battle for the number one seed in essence for both teams. And again, to South Haven Christian, great season for especially as runner-up for the state championship last year and the difficulty that was involved for you to get to this point and to host a playoff game and everything. Hats off to all of you, especially losing the pieces that you did from 2020. Congratulations to you all. A lot of stuff you can build off of going into 2022.
Hey, and let's make this point about FCA. Sorry to interrupt. Let's make this point. The four losses they had, of course, two of them coming at home, back-to-back weeks, Freedom and Grace, but also two losses on the road, one at Lancaster, one at Evangel. So being on the road, they are 1-2. No, well, if you count Friday night, 2-2. So being on the road has not been very favorable to them. And then obviously everyone knows Grace Baptist, being undefeated, they're undefeated at home, and they've beat some good teams at home too.
Yep, they absolutely have. All right, and now we have the final recap with the contest we were at on Friday night. The Freedom Cowboys senior night, they got the job done, and the final score of 52-22 against Carolina Wildcats was not reflective of how the majority of the game went. Heading into the fourth quarter, 26-22, close knit, and we talked with the head coach of the Wildcats prior to the contest, and he mentioned to us, at least Coach Hendricks. He mentioned to us that they had just gotten gassed in that 36-30 loss they had earlier in the year. I think that's what happened on Friday night.
Absolutely.
Really, once it went down to the fourth quarter, because you could see that players like Eminer, who was having such a great game, DeQuavius Madison, guys like Braylon Durham, they were having a great game, and then it was just they really did get gassed. It was a tough loss for them against Freedom Cowboys, but again, we mentioned it prior to the game. Depth is what this game was going to come down to. With the Freedom Cowboys having about 35 to 40 players on their roster compared to I think the total was about 15. I want to say maybe like 15 or not more than 20 players for the Wildcats. Yeah. That's what the game came down to, was numbers, because you could see the Wildcats were fighting and fighting to stay in that game, and for them to be only down by 4 points up to that point, it was impressive in its own right, Brennan.
Absolutely. You also have to remember there was a lot of injuries going on too during the second half. It was a struggle to keep everybody on the field for the Carolina Wildcats, but they put up a good fight in order to stay in that game. But the Freedom Cowboys, man, the defense just applied pressure whenever Fast was trying to throw out that ball. They made it hard. I mean, even when the coach made that adjustment to have two running backs back there to kind of give them even more protection, you only had one guy running out there. So, and that was tough in itself. But as soon as he started getting creative, he started scoring and all that. But the Cowboys, man, their running backs,
Joshua Butler,
wow. And him and Johnson just taking turns, scoring and running. Those two are great teammates, and you saw it as the player of the game.
Players of the game for both of them, yeah. All right, James, your breakdown, especially with your field cam perspective, you got to be right on the sidelines and everything, your breakdown of the Freedom Carolina contest.
Well, and one of the things that stuck out to me about Freedom is, every once in a while you'll see a team that's doing well, but the team atmosphere and attitude, it's more of a, hey, we're here doing our thing, but I could really care less about being around you. That's not the vibe I got the other night.
Right.
They are a family. They are having fun. You have Oliver Johnson at quarterback. They had Raymond Hunt out the other night, but, they still had guys, you mentioned it. Butler just handled business. Lorio had a great game. How about Ogletree kicking?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
night in the morning.
Pretty much a touchback every single time. There were a few times where it was close because the return player for the Wildcats would touch his foot in the end zone, and there was a little bit of a late whistle at times for the touchback. But you're right. Nathan Ogletree was just lights out, not allowing really any returns for the Wildcats.
I wish the one where they would have kicked the field goal that one time. It was like, come on, just let him kick the ball.
Just
You're
let 'em
right
try, yeah.
there.
Absolutely. James?
I forget which way were they going when that field goal attempt would have happened.
What's the, from at least our perspective from the press box, I think it was to the right side
It's a left.
or the left
was
towards
left.
the tree line. Yeah,
Yeah.
towards the tree line.
But they have a nice
Okay, so
gate
they would
there.
have had to go. So really, without the net there, they would have had to cross their fingers that Ogletree didn't put out a window in one of those houses back behind there.
That
Yep.
is true.
They do have a fencing behind there to try and alleviate with that, but I don't think it's
it
high
might
enough
not be
with that,
high enough.
how high that boot goes.
The way
from
his
Ogletree.
kickoffs went,
Mhm.
jeez.
Oh, yeah.
You hope he shows up at the Gatlinburg All American game because last year
he should.
they had to. I believe they at least one kid was an 11-man player that had to play kicker in the 8-man game. This year, with the kickers I've seen, between guys like him, Andrew Hasley from FCA, there's a couple other really good kickers. Arrington from Lancaster.
Yep.
There's a couple kickers that there's no reason to have to pull an 11-man kicker into this game. There's plenty of 8-man kickers. It's a
Yep.
matter of the coaches nominating them, because I have no doubt that they'll get voted in by the committee.
And one more thing for Ogletree, that snatch of an interception that he did. Oh my god.
Oh man.
It was literally a 50-50, like literally 50-50, because they both had the ball, and just to see him just straight snatch that ball out of his hands, oh man, it was beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, that was pretty special. Congratulations to the Freedom Cowboys on getting their victory on senior night. They closed out the regular season on Friday. They have the Independence Bowl on the road in Mount Juliet this year for the 3rd edition of the Independence Bowl against the Tennessee Heat. All right. Before we get into the elephant in the room, we want to address at least one thing here. Brendan, go ahead and show our new merchandise as it takes off the headset.
Model time.
As Brendan shows us the new shirt we have, and I believe Audrey, our producer, I said last week, got her a mic for several purposes and such, so I think she's got some sort of script for this modeling thing. So I hand it over to Audrey Green for the promotion of the shirt.
This is our 8-Man Extreme Breast Cancer Awareness shirt. We have sizes small to 3 extra large. So if you want the shirt, go to 8manextreme@gmail.com. Do an email tied to a PayPal account. We will send a payment request for amount selected plus $5 for shipping. So please go online and get this shirt.
There's the pink there. We also have an 8=11 that will have camo next month for Military Appreciation Month. So if you want that, you can mention it in your order, and we'll make sure we'll get you those at some point in November.
It's very comfortable.
I haven't worn my shirt yet on that, but it's washed. It's ready to wear. So I might wear it one of these days to the suit. You know what? Next week I may wear it.
Hey, let me add too. We will also have the signature shirt, which in the past it's been a white shirt. We changed it to a gray, and so we will have the signature shirt available too. And if you put your order, you can pre-order those shirts.
Yep. Just
specify that that's what you're ordering, and once we get those in stock, we'll get those shipped out to you. And then Audrey, there's some purchase options too.
Oh, as you're saying, Audrey, there are some purchase options as well, I believe. Was there anything else notated on there for that? Not sure if she had that in her notes on the purchase options.
So you can get one shirt for $20,
right,
and again, we'll add $5 for shipping. So it would technically be $25, but you can get one shirt for $20, 2 shirts for $35, and then 3 shirts for $50. So if you want one of each type, it'll be 3 shirts for $50, and then 5 for shipping, so $55.
Yep, absolutely.
And you can mix and match those. You can mix those sizes too.
Yep.
And then once the shirts are shipped, we'll send you a tracking order. We'll email you a tracking order, and that way you can keep up with your purchase.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, the merch is available there. Email 8manextreme.com for any of your shirts, including the camo, the pink, or the standard. Any of those 3 options are available to you.
Or you can get all 3.
Yeah, get all 3 for $50. It's a pretty good deal. I mean, it'll be $55 with shipping, but still a good deal. Yeah, absolutely, still a good deal.
If you go to any website, any other brand, there is. Well, I mean, unless you go like Walmart, there's no other brand you're getting 3 shirts for $50 and then shipping for only 5.
Yep.
Nobody else.
Nobody else.
Nobody.
All right, elephant in the room. What a week! I was out of town. We moved the show. We moved the show up last week for the ESPN Plus broadcast. I had drove straight from Murfreesboro after the game to Knoxville. I was visiting PhD programs. As I was driving out, as I was walking out of the University of Tennessee Knoxville, and going back to my car after my PhD program visit, we got the email from the TSIAA. So we'll talk about that. First thing I want to mention in terms of the Hugh Harris situation, we did get a statement from the referee, the Whitecap for the FCA game. His message, just to quote him here, he mentioned he spoke with Wayne Smith and Hugh Harris about the check incident that happened at FCA. An apology was offered, and he accepted. FCA has always been great to me for years officiating there. One mistake like the one that occurred does not make a person a bad individual. I was never mad but was bothered about it. I wish I had dealt with it in private because I never wanted this to be a moment to slander FCA or Hugh Harris at all. I do appreciate the leadership of the Mid-State Officials Association and Melvin Honer for their support of the situation. I understand there are consequences to actions and protocols that are out of my control. Excuse me. I need to grab some water in a second. I understand there are consequences to actions and protocols that are out of my control, but FCA is still a place I will enjoy officiating in the future. I hope all parties learn from this and can move on. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. The biggest mistake will be if we all didn't learn from a mistake. God bless. That is directly from the official who was given the fake check. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you. Thank you for getting the water. Shout out to producer Audrey on that. But
Shout out.
yeah, that's the official statement from the referee at the matchup. So just wanted to clarify that. So at least officially, there was an apology given behind the scenes, not publicly by FCA, as we've not seen anything on their social media profiles. Maybe they addressed it at Chapel this past week. Who knows? But there was no public apology. It was in private. So that is at least clarified. What we have been told. This weekend is supposed to be the varsity championship for the TSIAA. That the hosting rights were to Franklin Christian Academy. That has been stripped from them as a result of the incident. And what I've heard is that there is a 1-year ban on Hugh Harris from attending any events for the Tennessee State Independent Athletic Association. However, what I have been told is that Hugh Harris has threatened to take legal action against the TSIAA for that ban on grounds of they could understand being banned from the rest of the football playoffs, but being banned for a full year, he believes is overreaching on their authority. So he may take legal action or is threatened for that. Don't have any updates. Obviously, you saw the situation with the TSIAA. I don't think I'm going to get any updates directly from anybody there on that, but excuse me, that is what we have been told in that. So let's break it down first off. So let me first ask you, Brendan, your thoughts on the statement given by the official and just the situation there with at least an apology given.
I mean, that's the best thing you can do is just take an apology because I don't even know. Like, honestly, it's just crazy how he's going to take these legal actions. But, this is life. This is just how things work. But hopefully they get everything situated professionally. And, for the rest, I really feel bad for them. Hopefully no one quits after this whole scenery, and hopefully everything will go right for next year and things to come.
Yeah, that's the hope at least. But James, your thoughts on the statement given by the official?
I mean, he handled it with a lot of class, and obviously it seems like he's trying to take the high road. So a big shout out to him. I will give kudos to Hugh for at least reaching out to him, giving the apology. No matter what he says the intention was behind it, still owning up to it, at least personally, to the official, and I would hope to the officiating organization. So I mean, it's a bad look, but hopefully everyone can learn from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the same thing again. An apology was given. That's the important thing, and recognizing that he was wrong in that situation. That's the important thing, and that's the right step forward. So that's at least taken care of. All right, now James, I'll start with you on this one. Do you feel as if the punishment is fair that the TSIAA is giving, where they're stripping the hosting rights of the volleyball championship and the 1-year ban from attending any event for the TSIAA?
Well, considering, I think I think the host school only gets like 25% of the gate,
Uh-huh.
and then they get the concessions and maybe merch. But even then, they're still responsible for the officials. So, that they're not really making a ton, but they are taking money away from that host school.
Mhm.
So I mean, there's that. I don't think the 1 year ban will even matter because to me, FCA goes independent 11 man next year. I don't even think they stay in the conference, and I don't think they stay in 8 man,
Mhm.
depending on how their numbers are and depending on how they return. I don't see them going TSSAA because of the amount of homeschoolers in their program. Um, and really, you have to have a consistent 35 to 40 players every year, in my opinion, to play a good 11 man season.
Right.
But I do think they go independent 11 man next year. I don't think they go independent 8 just because of their size. So I don't think it really matters in terms of that. But
Mhm.
um, it's a decent penalty. I wish more would have been said publicly. I know there was legal action involved, and that kind of muddies everything up. Um, but it's an unprecedented situation for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting to think about Hugh Harris taking potential legal action and claiming that the conference is overstepping. I think that part's interesting because especially when you made the mistake. At least you owned up to it behind the scenes, but you're but but you're trying to get the punishment taken away or lessened. It's not if you made the mistake. I don't, in my opinion, I don't think you have a right to say what your punishment is. I don't think you have a right to say what is fair and what is not fair for the mistake you did, especially when you initially told the executive director of the conference that it was just a joke. Like when you had that stance and then backtracking on it and apologizing to the referee and then trying to say, well, this shouldn't be the punishment. This is too harsh or this is overstepping. So I think it's very I think it's very interesting, and I don't know how any legal action could actually come from that because again, you'd have to look at the updated bylaws. But I think what it comes down to is if, especially unprecedented, if the board feels this is the right punishment, then that's what they have to go with.
And honestly,
Well,
if you really want to like take anything, you want to help that volleyball team because the volleyball team shouldn't really be punished. So that should be Hugh's real action. You should
Mhm.
take the punishment and do whatever you can to get that punishment removed from the volleyball team.
Well, it wasn't specifically the volley. Well, I mean, they don't get to play in front of their home crowd, of course, for the
Yeah,
playoffs. But granted, with most of these schools on Championship Saturday, they travel really well, so that doesn't make as huge of an impact. But in terms of in terms of the volleyball team, I mean, it unfortunately does affect them. But at the same time, it's some consequences have to be given because there was the
yeah.
extreme of people were saying kick FCA completely out of the conference,
Nah.
which or kick him out of the playoffs, which again that's overstepping the
Yeah.
punishment in my opinion. But it's interesting. It's at least interesting to say the least. Any other thoughts, James?
yeah, I mean it really doesn't punish the volleyball team. I mean, like you said, they don't get to play in front of a true home crowd or at their home facility where they might be more comfortable. But it's more of a punishment for the school, like I mentioned with the revenue situation. Um, but yeah, I don't know how they would enforce him being banned from events that are held at his school. That would be interesting to see how they enforce that. But like I said, I don't think it's an issue.
Hmm. Yeah, and we'll just leave it at that. That's the latest of the situation. An apology was given behind the scenes, not publicly. The volleyball championship for varsity was stripped from Franklin Christian Academy, and a 1 year ban of Hugh Harris from any TSIAA sanctioned events. I believe there may have been a fine involved behind the scenes as well. Just like I know there was talks about $1,000 fine. I don't know if they issued that or not, but it's a drop in the bucket for any of those schools with their
I,
athletic programs.
Spence, I would be interested if they did fine him and FCA did pay the fine, kind of like Zion and Classical with the D2
Yep.
stuff. when they get fined, if these schools now this is if these schools actually pay the fines, because someone like Zion, where in my opinion, they're going to go independent next year or join another conference.
Yeah.
If they do pay the fine, where does that money go? What is it used for? Is it just sitting in an account somewhere? That would be my question. Is could we find a way to put it to good? Because you already have all of these schools and teams
Yep.
paying entry fees to be in the league. So you're fine on money. You're pulling in 75%, to my knowledge, 75% of revenue of gate revenue from these postseason events.
Yep.
Again, there's no way to look at updated bylaws.
Nope.
They're not public, so that they may have changed that number, but it'd be interesting to see what these fines are going for. What are they going to do with these fines if they didn't find these schools this money or these schools didn't pay? Would they just be out $2,000 that would just be sitting in the accounts?
That's question.
Or however much the fines are. I say 2,000 just hypothetically.
Right. Yeah, those are definitely questions that need to be asked. And a lot of questions have to be asked as well about this past weekend. So yeah, as I was walking out of UTK, we got the email from the TSIAA saying we no longer need your services for the playoffs. It was a vague email too, where it straight up said we don't need your services anymore. It didn't say you cannot broadcast the playoffs. And then we heard from schools that the TSIAA threatened to fine schools if they allowed us to go broadcast their playoff game. And again, that initial email where John Horner proposed that to the board, and from what we heard, there was no vote on that, and it was just sent in an email to us that you're not allowed to go, and there were fines being faced. And we sent an email to the athletic directors for both South Haven and Lancaster Christian, and they essentially waited until the email was published out and everything to make that decision. But it's I know there's a lot of choice words that all of us have about this. I think I'm just gonna. I obviously went on my long tirade last week about being mad that I lost a lot of income from not being able to work Saturday because that set up conference call and everything. So again, I'll just leave it at this. It's John Horner told me right at the start of his presidency, or at least around 2019 when we started interacting, he said, "I'm about the players because without the players, you don't have a league." John, how does this decision have the players in mind at all? That's the one question I would like answered, is how does that decision have the players in mind in any way, shape, or form? Because FCA obviously has a broadcast, and they broadcast their game against South Haven. If we were at Lancaster, Ezel Harding, all of your playoff games could be viewed. All of them could be viewed for parents, players, and everything. We had on Friday night when we did the Freedom Cowboys game, there was a 6-year-old kid who was having a bone marrow transplant surgery at the University of Minnesota Children's Hospital, and he was able to watch the game and tune in because we were there. How did your decision to ban us from the playoffs, how does that keep kids like that in mind, or families who are in the hospital? Like in 2020.
Or parents who have no option to be at the game.
Exactly. Parents who don't have an option or visiting different stuff. How does that have their best interest in mind? Even in 2020, I was at the Lancaster-Providence game. I was walking back to the press box after the game because I was talking with the coaching staff for both teams after the game, just because James wasn't there. So I was just having, networking, relationship building, or as James always says, shake some hands and kiss some babies, as he always puts it. But I was walking back, and a parent pulled me aside and said, "Hey, my mother is on a ventilator in the hospital, and she was able to watch this game because of you guys. I appreciate you being here." How does
Wait,
that
Spencer,
decision,
what did you say? What did you say my quote was?
shake some hands and kiss some babies?
No, it's kiss some hands and shake some babies.
You mix it in between both of those. Does that affect the story at all, James? No.
Do what?
Does that change the story at all? Is that important?
No, not at all.
No.
Not
So
at all.
shush.
It's. I mean, there's
Shush.
so many instances of people out of town being able to watch their kids, and they're taking that away because we hurt the wrong feelings.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
We didn't even hurt the wrong feelings. It's just someone took Spencer's words and just took whatever they wanted to hear and then didn't even listen to the rest.
And not even that, John Horner has also said that he doesn't listen. He's told me, I don't listen to radio. I don't listen to your show. I just, when I'm driving my car, I listen to my own thoughts. So my question is, who did he listen to on that about supposedly bashing the league? Who did he listen to, or did he listen to the show himself? Because we've had many instances where athletic directors have called us complaining about what we said on the show, and they haven't even listened to it. So how does that, again, that's the question I want John Horner to answer, is how did your decision to ban us from the playoffs, how did that have the players' interest in mind, or the parents, or the coaches? And that's just where it makes me upset there. And I don't know, James. I know you have a lot of other choice words with this and such, but it's at the end of the day. And what I've heard as well, there were coaches behind the scenes who also supported us and said, "This is ridiculous. We are fighting for you." And obviously, nothing budged, because otherwise we would have been at Lancaster, Ezel, Harding. I'm glad we went down to the Freedom Cowboys game, to be honest with you, because I want to give a shout out and just a little tidbit here, because we'll get to shout. Actually, I'll save the shout out for the end of the show, but I enjoyed being at the Freedom Cowboys game. It was hospitable. People loved us being there. Compliment after compliment after compliment of thank you guys for what you do. We appreciate you. And that's why we do this. Not for people like John Horner who can't take criticism. If you cannot handle criticism, don't be in a position of leadership. Don't.
Well, you had
During one last thing, Jay. I know you got some thoughts in there, but I have gotten so much criticism for posting about Hugh Harris and this check thing in this situation. And a lot of the comments have been, whether it's truthful or not, why are you posting about this for all FCA has done to you? And I talked about this last week. I'm thankful for the opportunities they gave me, but at the end of the day, I can't have bias. I have to report on this stuff no matter who it is. But at the end, I have gotten those comments, and I've taken that feedback and recognized it as, okay, I need this. This is feedback. This is how I know what I've done, and I've listened to it, and I've taken it with poise and professionalism, and I've responded to as many people as I can and told them about the situation. I haven't taken an approach of maybe if I ignore it, it'll go away. I haven't just shut off social media. I haven't shut off the comments on the TSIAA social media page, which they did on their Division II post, and I don't shut off my comments on my post because I am okay with taking criticism. If you can't handle criticism and don't want to be critiqued at all in your job, resign or go into some other position where you're not going to get criticized. Because being a leader of an athletic conference, that's not the place you need to be if you can't handle criticism. So,
or at least on Twitter.
Or at least on Twitter. All right, James. I know you got a lot you want to add in here. So.
Well, did we have a 2-hour drive Friday night? Yes. But Carolina had a 5.5-hour drive.
Yep.
Wildcats from Picken. So all those folks not able to make the drive, on top of I would probably put the number at least 5. Which you say, well, it's only 5. Hey, I'll take the 5.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 people coming up and going, hey, you mentioned the kids, Spencer. Parents stationed out of town, grandparents that never get to watch their kids play.
Yep.
Unless we're there at the game. And that's what it comes down to. That's what it's about.
Yep.
And I've told several people, I'm asked, well, why do you guys discuss the conference and the board and the decisions? Because the decisions made affect the kids that we cover.
Yep.
That's why we cover this conference. Also, the majority of teams we cover are in this conference. Once we get the majority of, I think we have a majority of ACSC, but once we get a little more established in Alabama or get somebody in Alabama to cover Alabama football, guess what? They're going to discuss ACSC, which from my discussions with their commissioner, it's been a super positive experience. And there's nothing that I look at and scratch my head and go, what in the actual green earth is going on here?
Yep. Yeah.
And it's just the voting. I've gotten several different stories. I've gotten stories that there was no voting, that there was voting and it was unanimous, that there was voting and it was split. And, of course, there's nothing public. TSIAA has not addressed, for if we had not said anything on our social media, there would be nothing public and no one would know that we were banned.
Yep.
So, and again, it's kind of a circular situation because if we don't say anything publicly, maybe we don't get banned, and then we get banned and we whatever. So the whole situation is a mess. But hey, like you said, Spencer, it was amazing to be there Friday night. Freedom was fantastic. Carolina and the interactions we had with them were
Yep.
fantastic. If it wasn't like an all-day trip down there, I would definitely want to go catch a game in South. Well, there's them, there's Pack, there's several teams in South Carolina that are begging us to come down and do some games there. Alabama's loved it. We've heard from people in Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri, Arkansas. You take the South. That's why we cover the Southeast. And hopefully, as time goes, we're able to expand. And you know what? Maybe it's for the best that this whole thing goes down because now we can now it frees up some of these weeks where we're not. Obviously, we're not going to put schools in a situation where they could be fined
No.
just because they want their kids to be covered. We're not going to do that to these schools.
Yeah.
But maybe it does. Maybe it is for the best because now we can branch out and cover some of these teams that we typically wouldn't because of the travel. Because it's a little bit local game. It has big conference indications. Maybe it is for the best that this happens. Maybe it's depending on if another conference starts next year with some of these schools that are independent and want to play in a conference, so they're tired of this existing situation. That could happen, and that could it could grow. So a lot of things could come from this decision, this poor decision. Um, but I guess we'll see if anything changes or if they hold fast and you know their championship game for the last 7 years has been broadcasted by 8 Man Extreme, whether it's audio or video.
Yep.
So I mean, to me, it's interesting. And you know what? I bring up a point I mentioned earlier. These fines that if these schools pay up, and the conference has the revenue from the postseason games, they have the membership fees. Who knows? Maybe they go out and hire uh, a production company, that has done a school's broadcast in the past. Maybe they hire the production company to come in and do the championship game. I'll tell you right now, and I'm biased because I know the work that our crew puts in. It's not going to be on our level. You can have all the fancy equipment you want in the world, but the overall vibe of the broadcast is not going to be the same as us. We are going to bring the best to the table,
Not
bar none.
not only that, but also include the prize presentations and the pregame introductions and all that stuff with the state championships. It's unfortunate. Hopefully, John Horner will change his mind. Hopefully, he'll look past this and think about the players of mind because Ezo Harding is the host site for the championship this year. We were told prior to the season by Jason Charlton, their athletic director, that if Ezo Harding's not in the championship, we'll give you guys that booth space where normally they have their broadcast crew is, which we were looking forward to. I assume because of it being the state championship that they won't let us in if the ban is still in place. But I would hope John Horner looks at this and recognizes this should be about the players. And we've heard this from coaches and players throughout our history. I want to say since 2018, once we started getting an actual camera on the computer and started testing all this stuff. Players and coaches feel like it's Sunday Night Football when we're there. They really feel like it's a Sunday night game and that it's in prime time and that we're highlighting them and all this stuff. So, are you going to have a championship? Assuming FCA doesn't make it, which they could, we'll get into the previews and such. But if it's Grace Baptist and CCS, you have no broadcast crew at that game unless you hire somebody out for production. We're also doing this for free. Like, you don't see this stuff behind the scenes. James Shannon yesterday, we were late starting for the Freedom Cowboys game because James had his day job that his boss held him up at, and he didn't leave he wasn't leaving Nashville until about 5 o'clock. So he could, or about 4:30. So he literally rolled up on site about 7 minutes after kickoff, or about 5 to 7 minutes after kickoff, and we quickly set up everything. Only missed about, I want to say, 3 or 4 minutes of game time. So we missed a little bit. We missed that opening drive by the Freedom Cowboys, but we still set up. We still did the game and that kind of stuff. You guys don't see the sacrifices that not just James, but Audrey, Brendan, as well as Monica and Jerry Jr. and Matthew when he was with us earlier in the season. You don't see the sacrifices that everyone's making behind the scenes and everything. None of us make any money off of this. It's zero. All the funds
You know,
that
the whole
yeah
the whole pulling up in the driveway at 3 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, no one sees it. Yesterday, I pulled into my driveway at 2 o'clock. I didn't get to sleep till about 3 or 4, just because of getting all the equipment unloaded and unwinding and just catching up on all my phone notifications. Like I didn't get to sleep till like 3 or 4. So nobody sees that. I challenged John Horner to go with us for one game, for just one game broadcast, to travel with us and see all that we do. Maybe he'll have more of an appreciation for it and recognize that when we're critical of him, it's because of the lack of communication. Like, James, you mentioned talking to the commissioner of the ACSC, who's the head coach of East Central Homeschool Patriots. Most commissioners that you talk to in any of their sports conferences or executive directors, they're open. They're honest. They communicate. They don't have anything to hide. And what it indicates to us and to the public when you have things to hide and you're not open is that you're on a power trip, you've got some malicious intentions to hide, or you're just bad at your job and not willing to be open and make these decisions public.
Well,
Maybe
and
a
I'm going to
mixture
play
of all
devil's
three.
advocate because we have not covered the actual ACSC officially yet. We've covered some teams that were in them. I've had discussions with the commissioner, like you mentioned. But in talking, I've had relationships with Evangel and Ezekiel for a few years. Lighthouse, we've gotten to know. Even them talking about stuff going on in the conference, there's nothing in any of those interactions that make me want to just bash my head against the wall. So, on all fairness, he's still talking to me, but it's if you look at it from John's side, it's because we haven't bashed them. But
Yeah,
there's been nothing to talk about
yeah,
negatively with them.
yeah. And we
Even
you're right.
the point differential, the way they do their system, it just makes sense.
Yep. Yep, that's you're exactly right. It makes sense, and again, I will give credit where credit is due. TSIAA listened to us and moved the Division II championship back, so there's no incentive to lose.
Well,
So that you can
they
cover.
listen to us or they listen to the coaches that said, "Hey, we really don't want to sit for 3 weeks."
maybe, but yeah, we've been advocating for it for the last year and this year. I mean, granted, Division II format we talked about that, but they at least moved it back and made the right decision. So that's at least handled. But anything you want to add in, Brendan?
I think I'm gonna give mine to Audrey. I think she wanted to add something.
All right, producer Audrey. Producer Audrey, what you got?
So when you texted me about that we were banned from the playoffs championships, I literally responded, "Who do I have to talk this out?" And I was really confused of why we were like banned, because you guys didn't really like bash the league. Like, you guys were just saying your opinions, and I'm like, we're not kids. We're not being mean. We're just saying you're the media. You have to say your opinion.
Yep.
Exactly.
And so I was like, why is this just a petty answer? Like, of why we're banned. And honestly, I was excited to go to the playoffs and championships. So I was really sad. Like, come on, league, we have feelings. Like,
Yeah.
like I really wanted to go. And honestly, we're doing this, like you said, for the players. And I know we got like emails about like parents being grateful and stuff. And yeah, that's my opinions. I think it's just stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's the upside, Audrey. You still get playoffs, and it's in Panama City, Florida,
Yep.
with an
Panama.
off day. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you still get the playoffs in Florida and everything, and again, we'll get later shout-outs. You have a coordinator for the tournament in Hank St. Dennis who is fantastic, absolutely, just communicating with us week by week, thanking us for what we've done, and putting up houses for us this year with all the crew that we're bringing down to make the championship the best it can be, and make those broadcasts the best they can be for the players and everyone involved. So, we're putting in the time and effort and all these things. And, even James taking off of work because we'll be traveling down, on Friday. And we'll be traveling down on Friday to the resort and then staying, some of us, until Tuesday morning. But most people leaving after the national championship on Monday night. So, like, putting in all of the effort to make it the best it can be. And we'll at least have the playoffs in Florida. We'll have the state, hopefully the state championship. The Conference of Pac Panthers are in. More details to come on that, and probably the state championship for the ACSC as well, as we're working on those details, and the Independence Bowl on Friday too, which is essentially a playoff. But it's again, I completely agree. Again, it's just about feelings getting hurt. It's that's ultimately what
Nobody.
it's coming down to. And I want to give a commemoration as well to the MSOA. They pulled their officials from Arbiter on Monday morning because of that ban. Monday or Tuesday morning from that ban. So athletic directors were calling John Horner about it. John calls Ronnie, and Ronnie tells him, I'm done. You need to lift the ban on the playoffs, or I'm not doing this. And they changed it because the MSOA leadership, they met amongst each other, and they decided it was, at the bottom line, it was about the paychecks of the referees involved, with it being 3 games on Friday. To clarify, full support to them for that. 100%, because Ronnie has always been open with us. Anytime there have been calls that have been screwed up, he's been the first one to look at it and go, you're right, we screwed up. And they've been open and given us statements and everything. Imagine actually building a relationship, being open and honest to yourself and others. So
And it
Ronnie,
was not,
yeah.
and it was not an easy decision either.
No, it was not. They had a 3-hour meeting on Wednesday about it, and they were talking and such. And then even Ronnie, he came to us and was like, I hate to do this. I really hate to do this because I want to stand with you guys, but it's about more people involved than just me. Full respect to that decision. That people got to make money. People people have to hit their bottom line and everything. And there was a lot more to that decision than making a stand. Which I'm glad they did. I'm glad they sent that message saying, hey, we're not doing this crap because your feelings getting hurt are getting in the way of these kids. Not only that, the officials. You could have had instant replay at least one of the playoff games. Mm-hmm. You could have had a chance to correct obvious mistakes if there were any in that Lancaster-Ezel Harding game. Now you didn't, because you didn't even have a broadcast crew. Like the South Haven and FCA game, you could have, but now you can't. And with the divisional playoffs, yeah, FCA will do the Grace game, but for CCS Lancaster, you can't. You can't do replay. So that's another factor. There's so many factors that involve in this, and it's just, again, one man who is so stubborn, at least from what we've heard, because of mixed stories about if there was a vote, if there was not a vote. But again, it ultimately came down to, it was initiated by one man who cannot take criticism, who is just so hurt by us saying, hey, you should be doing this better. And it's just, and again, it's just.
And I challenge that one man to actually go back and listen to that show.
Listen to last week and clarify
exactly.
what we were saying. Yeah.
Because it's like I said before, it's just literally whoever told him literally just took whatever you said and just said, hey, this is all he said.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and I'm going to even take it from the players' side. Players play better in the playoffs.
Yep.
Because there's so much more in stake. So now, let's just say some of the seniors, they got a couple colleges watching them and all that, and maybe they can't catch them around the lifetime. So now they don't have any film to show.
I mean, they've got the film from Lancaster and Ezel Harding when they were filming the game, of course. But it's funny. Film exchange, from what we've heard between the coaches around this conference, it's very limited and far in between.
Exactly.
So, and way easier would be to just reach out to us, say, hey, do you have film on this game? Yep. Send them a YouTube link instead of the coaches having to go into huddle and do the extra work because they've got other responsibilities. We could just send it to them instantly. But now that can't happen because we weren't there at Lancaster Ezel Harding. So again, it's just
none of this crew on a Friday night broadcast has an easy job. So I can't say that he should come onto the broadcast and work with, do the easiest job on there, because it's really not an easy job.
I wouldn't even say
just
work
pick a
with
job.
us. I'd just say I'd encourage John to come with us for one broadcast. Just watch what we do, see the hard work we put in, us showing up 2 hours before game site, setting everything up earlier in August and September, drenched in sweat, working through the heat and the sun beating down.
Or freezing.
Or at this point, now that we're getting into the winter season, freezing cold at like 50-degree and now getting close to 40-degree weather in the evenings, with fingers going numb, trying to wrap up cables and cords and to pack up all our equipment and such. And I will reverse it to the other side. I could understand maybe the other responsibilities that John Horner might have behind the scenes and the things he has to do to make money. I could understand that. I'd be willing to sit in on his day job for a day and see all the responsibilities he has. However, to that, it's the same point I made about how I was told that they're not getting paid for this position. Don't volunteer for a position that is unpaid if you cannot fulfill it to the best of your ability, because then it is a bad reflection on you, as we have the case here, is that it's a bad reflection on the leaders of the TSIAA for not putting in the full effort, keeping the players in mind, being open and everything. That's position we're in now. But
Let's put a bow on this discussion by
yep,
saying this, Spencer. They can effectively ban us from doing conference games. They can affect how our schedule is on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They cannot take this away. They cannot take this show away.
nope.
Nope.
Sunday can't be taken away. We're still going to talk about it. We're still going to talk about the situations. We still have people giving us inside information and everything. But, it's like James said, we have parents, players, coaches, and school administrators begging. I'm not exaggerating, begging us to go to Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, Arkansas, Iowa, Ohio. We have many schools begging us to go out and cover them. What is it? One board member told me once, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you," to try and get us to stop talking about the conference. TSIAA doesn't feed us anything. Yeah, they banned us
Have
from the
never
playoffs.
paid us a
They
dime.
haven't paid us a dime. Have never publicly thanked us for what we do or acknowledged us or anything. But but you know what? TSIAA, you got bite the hand that feeds you. We don't bite the hand of athletic directors that feed us. We work with them. We work with them and
Spence,
work
I,
with coaches. So
I
what?
guess they have publicly because we posted. I guess in a sense, they have publicly thanked. They said TSIAA would like to thank you for your willingness to broadcast our playoff and championship
Well,
games. So, I
that was
mean,
in a private email. That wasn't public.
I know, but now that we've made it public, they can claim that they publicly said it.
They could make the claim, but they never publicly thanked us for anything, and they haven't publicly addressed it. So, yeah, just put a bow on it. It's that they don't give us anything, and more importantly, the question that we'll have going into 2022 is, what reason do we have to cover any teams in the TSIAA when the administration doesn't appreciate what we do and doesn't keep the players at interest? Doesn't align, doesn't make sense. So punishes the players there, but maybe they'll join another conference. Maybe TSAACS will bring back football if enough schools are like, hey, let's bring it back because you guys actually have everything together and you're being public about this kind of stuff. So,
And again, it's not for the money. It's not for the fame.
nope.
It's for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, that at least wraps it up. Yeah, still haven't heard anything from the TSIAA, and as far as we're aware, we're still barred from doing the semifinals on Friday. Hope maybe that'll change, maybe it won't, but at least for now, we know which game we're going to. All right, let's move on. National rankings for the NHSA. We just got these in, so let me actually get this sent over to our group so Brendan can see it. So. Not much has changed. Grace Baptist stays at the number one seed, even with the bye. Again, they beat the bye, as they have several times this year. They're the number one seed. Evangel at number 2. Russell stays at number 3. The Freedom Cowboys with that win, they're at number 4. So they kind of keep that locked in 4 seed. Ezekiel Academy is at 5. Number 6 right now is Lancaster Christian with their win. Franklin Christian is at 7 with their victory. Christian Community is at 8. Lighthouse Homeschool finishing out their season. They're at the 9 seed. SWLA Homeschool out of Lake Charles, Louisiana is at 7-1. At least out of the other teams we cover, Southern Prep is at 12. South Haven with the loss at 14. Providence Christian up to 15. Sacred Heart at 20. Ezel Harding at 24. The Tennessee Heat at 25. And other teams that have ended as so on and so forth. But looking at the way that shapes up, Grace Baptist, they haven't had any reason to be brought down at this point, so I think they're gonna stay at that number 1 seed, even if they were to lose to Franklin Christian on Friday night. But I like the seeding. I like where it is right now, and I think it shapes up for a good Division I playoff bracket. But what say you, Brendan?
Absolutely. I love the seeding. There's There's nothing I can nay on here. I mean, Grace Baptist, of course. Evangel's been doing great. Ezekiel Academy better watch themselves. They're on the pillow of getting falled out, but
Yep.
I can't disagree with this. And like you said, even if Grace Baptist were to lose, they probably still be at the number one spot.
No, I agree on there. It's looks like it's shaping up well. What say you about these updated rankings, James?
I like him. I mean, I think if again, if Ezekiel wins that state championship, decides to go D1, at this point you get Grace, Ezekiel, and Evangel Freedom first round,
Yep.
and that sets up a lot of great matchup opportunities for that championship. D2 is a little more murky because it's not a strict like 5 through 8. So D2 is kind of mixed rankings right now. Um, but no, I like them. I mean, they look solid. Um, Mentioned, let's see, Evangel Montgomery at 11. Yeah, at 6-2. So there's a chance that they could go into that D1 if Russell wins state. I actually, from looking at it, I don't think Russell and Evangel will play for state. Because they do a 14 playoff. I know this is a bunny trail, but this leads into this. Trust me, there's a point. So the 14 playoff right now for CFA, you have Russell playing Evangel Montgomery in the first round, and then Tabernacle and Tuscaloosa in the first round as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get either Tabernacle or Tuscaloosa playing Russell, and Russell already beat both of those teams. So, I think you do get Evangel Montgomery in Division 2, and then, like I said, depends on what happens, but you could have Grace, Evangel, Freedom, and Ezekiel in D1.
And again, the question on that is if the Division Two bracket is actually held this year. We'll see how that plays out. We still got some time from Hank Sake, Dennis and Company to determine if, because again, there's only two teams that are confirmed going down there, which right now is the Freedom Cowboys and the Grace Golden Eagles. I would essentially locked in as well. I'd say Evangel and probably the Tennessee Heat go down. The Heat would be in the Division 2 bracket, but that's at least kind of four teams that are confirmed. The question is, are there the other teams that would go down, such as Southern Prep and other factors involved? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Excited to see how Florida is in Panama City Beach. But yeah, the rankings will be posted on the NHSA Facebook page later today. Shout out to Hank St. Dennis for sending those early. So that
And just kind of a preview, if that D2 is able to happen, let's go ahead and put Ezekiel in D1. So D2, you would have Southern Prep, who we've covered this year.
mm-hmm.
They've had a good season. Evangel Montgomery, Tennessee Heat, and then the team out of Louisiana, Westminster, at 4 and 5.
Yep.
So that would be your D2 bracket, hypothetically,
Mm-hmm.
if everything was to shake out.
Yeah, and that would be pretty good. That's a lot more games for us to broadcast, but wouldn't have it any other way. That'd be about like four games
100%.
on 4 games on Saturday, 4 games on Monday.
Can't wait.
Oh yeah, it should be special. All right, those
And
are,
because of the even numbers, it won't be the odd, like the half game thing they had to do a couple years ago when there
Yep.
were 5 teams up there. They can do 4 full games, and you could just have 2 complete days of football.
Yep, absolutely. Those are your NHSA rankings. All right, it's time for the preview section where we preview essentially Week 12, which is the last week we have on our helmet schedule. So follow along if you have your helmet schedules from top to bottom, at least for the games that are listed on there, and then we get into the rest of the playoff games. So we will start out. Brendan, you'll be picking first this week, so we'll start out with you. The Evangel Christian School Lightning close their regular season as they host the Southern Prep Academy Fighting Rangers. This is a matchup, a collision of titans in essence, and the Fighting Rangers going to this point, they've done very well. The Evangel Lightning have also done well in their own respects, only taking 2 losses on the year into really good teams. And Coach Roland Bell, this is not a rematch of the national championship last year since they were on the semi, since they were on other sides of the bracket, but it's gonna be fun to watch this. I think Coach Bell is ready, poised. He's very familiar with Tim Smith and such. But at the end of the day, I leave it to you and James to make your predictions. So Brendan, the Fighting Rangers and the Lightning, who's gonna strike in this one?
Big upset alert. The Flying Rangers are going to beat the Lightning.
Oh,
It'll be by a little margin, but they'll be able to pull off that upset.
See if Southern Prep can do that. All right, James, who you got?
Brennan, you can have the upset special because I'm taking the Lightning.
All right, and again, this is one of James's preseason predictions. So, all right.
Oh, whatever.
All right. Next we go with the. Next we go with. Actually no. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We now go to the playoff games for the TSIAA. So we'll start out with the game in White House, Tennessee. The Colts of Christian Community getting the number 1 seed in the North, claiming that back for ever since 2017. I believe the 5th time in 6 seasons, if I'm correct. 5th time in 6 seasons that they've had the number 1 seed. Only caveat to that was last year where South Haven took it from them. And the Colts will host the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights for now the 18, 19, 20, 4th straight year where the Colts host Lancaster. Oh, this contest, Deuce Bragg versus Caden Poulin, as well as the passing game with the receivers. You got Asher Nix versus Devon Hargrove. You got Spurlock versus Will Adams. Oh, it's going to be a fun competition to hopefully we'll be able to witness it. Who knows what'll happen? But if we can't witness it, it'll be fun to see the box score and everything going on with that. But we know some of the coaching staff at CCS loves us, as they always enjoy the post game report and all of that. But all right, Brendan, Colts and Knights. It has been except for last year, it's been Colts heavy on the wins in the playoffs. Does Lancaster make it to their first state championship in their 8-man football tenure, or do the Colts make it back for the 17, 18, 19, 4th time in 5 seasons?
And look, I'm sure Bragg is going to hype up his boys and get them ready to play. And he's a great leader, quarterback-wise. But that Christian community, man, there's too many weapons. Way too many weapons for that defense for Lancaster to stop. So you'll see the Colts win again.
And the Colts will go back as the number 1 seed in the North and head back to the postseason. Every year they've gotten the number 1 seed in the playoffs, they've made it to the state championship. That's an impressive statistic. So I wonder, James, does history continue with the perfect streak of the number 1 seeded Colts getting to the state championship, or do you predict Lancaster for the 2nd straight year will upset the Colts in May Flanders Field?
Well, here's the thing. When Lancaster got over the hump, they threw the monkey off the back last year, getting the playoff win at CCS. There was a difference between that team and this team, other than the seniors. You had Sean Bell as offensive coordinator last year. You don't have him this year. I think that affects them, and I'm going to pick the Colts on this one.
All right. You both have the Colts going to the state championship for the 4th time in 5 seasons. On the other side of the bracket, the rematch of the thriller regular season matchup, 40-33, where Grace Baptist won against Franklin Christian. That was at Bass Field in Franklin. This is down at middle school in Ottawa. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a barn burner of a playoff game. Glad there's at least one broadcast of it to witness, but the Falcons collide with the Golden Eagles. Should be special. All right, Brennan, heard it all season long. How about some of that humble pie and all that stuff? But based on how the Falcons did against South Haven, how the regular season matchup went, it's difficult to beat a team twice, but it's also not uncommon to beat a team twice, as we saw that happen last year for FCA in the state championship, where they played South Haven in the regular season. We've seen this stuff before. So who's taken the victory? And by your prediction, who's facing the Colts in the state championship?
Oh, well, it's Grace Baptist, hands down. I mean, even we were in Freedom, and they were talking about Cooper Connect and how good he is.
Yep.
So it's like, if you can't stop him, and they stopped him passing wise, but they couldn't stop him running wise.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they stopped him running wise, but they couldn't stop him passing wise. So we're just gonna see what happens. But please believe you'll see Grace Baptist and the Christian community in the championship.
James, you going with the upset on this one, or are you riding the Golden Eagles train?
You saw the matchup during the regular season, how close it was. Grace had to pull it out. FCA had the most answers for Grace. Now, to be fair, they got to play them way later in the season, where you had Ezel Harding, Evangel, all these schools still trying to figure out what Grace Baptist was going to do. And once they got to FCA, they were able to do all their homework and prepare for them and play well. So they were able to handle their own. And, Grace had to eke out that victory. Again, this is at Grace. Totally different story. Grace is going to blow the brakes off of Franklin Christian.
Ooh, blow the brakes.
Blow the brakes. Hope that maybe that's the case there. We'll see how that plays out in Ottawa. All right. The Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week for Week 11 is. Wait. There we go. There's James. We have a doubleheader this weekend. On Friday night, we will be at the Independence Bowl for the first time at Charlie Daniels Park. The Tennessee Heat will host the Freedom Cowboys. We'll get to see the Freedom Cowboys in back-to-back weeks, and it'll be special. It'll be really special to see that as well. We'll see the trophy there. Get to talk with both the independent programs, which now both the Tennessee Heat and Freedom Cowboys, they're becoming the staple homeschool football programs, or just homeschool programs all in general. Come on, James, we heard that. Well,
no, there's some wind. I stepped outside of my truck, break the fourth wall. I'm doing this for my truck. I stepped outside and the wind hit my mic.
We will see basically the staple homeschool programs for Tennessee and Alabama collide in the Independence Bowl, which they started that in 2019 after the Tennessee Heat left the TSIAA, or at the time MTAC. It's tough with the losses the Tennessee Heat have taken. We heard from the Freedom coaching staff that they were ready to bring the trophy back to Huntsville. And by the look on your face, Brendan, I think that I think I know what you're going to go with. But Freedom Cowboys, Tennessee Heat, conclusion to their kind of trophy in the Independence Bowl. Who you got in this one?
And they were celebrating like they already won it because they are going to win it. Freedom Cowboys are going to put the hurting on Tennessee Heat. They're probably going to shut them out.
All right, we might see a shutout there. James, now you're on week-to-week predictions. You missed on the Heat a decent amount. Again, you couldn't prepare for Carter Sutton being out. But you taking an upset in this, or is Coach Kyle Collins just going to get the job done on the road?
Man, I love Lucky, Aiden Luchtenfeld, the way he plays, Luke Matthews, Kion Washington, all those guys. But how about them Cowboys?
How about
Freedom with the win.
All right, the Cowboys will take it. And then Saturday on our doubleheader, right now the game is slated for 2 p.m. Central. We'll get you an update on if that kickoff changes, but it makes sense because the Vikings are traveling from Knoxville to Nashville. It's about 3 hours, and then Nashville to Jackson, it's about 2.5. So about the same distance that the Carolina Wildcats had to Huntsville for that senior night on Friday. So I believe they're having that kickoff at 2 p.m. Central. They'll be traveling back to try and get home at about like 11 or 12 o'clock, reasonable time to get into Knoxville, which makes perfect sense for them. So at least with that contest, we'll have it at 2 p.m. from Jackson. First time being back there since actually last year, later in the year, where they hosted the now defunct Bowling Green Warriors. All right, Brendan. Vikings have not gotten a win this year. Sacred Heart, several wins this year in a convincing fashion. Who do you got taking the victory in this one?
And look, Sacred Heart just has too much size for a Tennessee school to even handle, especially with Thunder and Lightning. Please believe you're going to see them come in and just tarnish the Vikings.
It's just been a struggling season for the Tennessee School for the Deaf, unfortunately, especially with their first season back. James, do the struggles continue, or do they end their season with a win in Jackson?
Gage Conger is just an incredible player to watch. He's a lot of fun. He's a massive asset for the Vikings. That being said, Brendan, you mentioned Thunder and Lightning. They've got that senior quarterback, Jake Keel. Yeah, it's Sacred Heart on this one.
Yep, you guys got Sacred Heart on the same page for that. And that concludes our predictions for Week 11. or actually predictions for Week 12 as we conclude Week 11 coverage, and we'll be at the Independence Bowl on Friday. All right, time for our shout-out section. I'm going to go with Audrey first on this one, our producer. Ladies first on this. You got any shout-outs as we finish up Week 11 and look forward to Week 12? I said finish Week 11 and then head to Week 12. So any shout-outs?
My shout-outs are to Freedom Cowboys for welcoming us. It was a very cool venue, and I love the hot chocolate.
Oh yes, yeah. That really hit the
Super
spot.
clutch.
Yeah, that really hit the spot during halftime.
Yeah, and then shout out to Monica for talking to me throughout the game.
Oh yeah, shout out to Monica traveling with us for the first time. I mean, she's been at some of the Heat games, or she was at the CCS games we've done this year. I think she'll be traveling with us the rest of the season as well. She'll be talking to you. I remember there's one time during the game we made a call and she was obviously you and Monica were bonding. And we just heard something about, I'm babysitting 2 kids in the morning. One of them's 5 and one of them's 3 and such. And we just kind of jokingly look up at the press box, and she just looks back. She's like, "What? I said what I said." That was a fun moment. But yeah. Any others you got on there? All your shout-outs? All right. James. I'll let you go after Brendan. Brendan, who you got on this shout-out?
I was going to let James go.
All right, James. What you got, James?
I'm a double down on Audrey's shout out. Shout out to the Cowboys for working with us in the situation. I know in the past everything hasn't really worked out in terms of spacing, but hey, great venue, and big shout out to them for working with us. Shout out to my wife. Pretty much making Friday happen. So breaking the fourth wall.
Yep.
Like Spencer said, I got out of work late. She came, met me. We drove down together. She helped get all the equipment out. Hung out with Audrey during the game. Helped with the broadcast a little bit, kind of running cords back and forth, and then handled some of the driving on the way back. So with everything involved to do this, and everything going on in life, it takes a strong woman, and she's that. So I double down on Audrey's shout out, and a shout out to you guys for holding down the show today, despite my lack of ability to be there due to my community service. No, I'm just kidding.
Community service.
But no, it's a lot of fun, and also, let me get it pulled up. Shout out to AJ Brown and the tennis. Oh my gosh, it's 27-0.
Yeah, 27-0 against the Chiefs. I've heard from people they say that the Chiefs are done, but who knows?
AJ Brown with 22 points. Aaron Rodgers is torching Washington, and the Titans defense has 13 points for me. Younghoe Koo started off a little slow. He's got 8 points. So a huge shout out to all the players on my fantasy for helping me move to 2-5 on the season. By the way, confirmed kickoff Saturday is at 2 p.m.
Saturday 2 p.m. kickoff. That is not something to be proud of with 2-5. I have a chance to go 4-3. Patrick Mahomes.
Hey, it's better than 1-6.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is -0.6 points right now. It is.
I was actually wondering how you're doing over
there.
there.
My other quarterback I could have put in was Jalen Hurts at Las Vegas, so I might be regretting that decision unless Mahomes can start getting things going in the third quarter. Hey, he might as that kick barely goes in. Yeah, James.
I've got one more shout out. When all this news dropped on Tuesday, I would like to give a shout out to the parents, the coaches, players, even former players who used to be in 8-man. Just the amount of support we received from everyone in terms of this decision, really, really appreciate it. Multiple emails, multiple texts and calls, social media comments and interactions. There's a lot of eyes on this situation, and hopefully it resolves itself. But also a shout out to everyone who's bought merch. Hey, go get it.
Yep.
It's not about us making money. Trust me, it's not about us making money.
Yep.
It's about, getting the message out there to everyone about 8-man football that, even though it's mathematically incorrect, 8 equals 11. It's a great conversation starter.
Absolutely. Brennan, who you got?
So everybody shout outs. I'm just going to triple down and double down and all that. Yeah. Shout out to the Freedom Cowboys. Great facility. Just the bleachers were lovely, better than Lighthouse. I tell you that.
No disrespect to
No
Lighthouse
disrespect to
there. Coach
Lighthouse.
Bell even knows. He's mentioned that he's probably with the new press box they're building. They're gonna just put in a whole new set of bleachers and everything. So he knows. He knows as well. So
Yeah, shout out to Freedom Cowboys and the whole community there. You guys were great. We loved going down there. Hopefully, if I'm here next year, we can go back down there to Alabama in general. Actually loved going down to Alabama, covering all the teams. Shout out to Momo, especially. Yeah, I'm still in that nickname, aka Monica. That's your nickname now, Momo, and for doing all you done and everything. And of course, happy birthday, James. You didn't tell us.
Happy birthday,
but
on
happy
Thursday,
birthday,
man.
bud.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's absolutely.
Dadgummit. I almost got through a full game broadcast and a show without it being mentioned.
Oh no, you weren't getting away, buddy.
Yeah, no, of course not. How about all that news to drop down on James's birthday week too?
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping the news of the ban getting reversed would come out on Thursday.
Yeah,
and it just didn't happen.
Yeah,
So
of course not.
But also shout out to those parents, the coaches, and everybody that had our back. We appreciate y'all so much, and hopefully something comes up. But other than that, no, I don't mind going to Freedom and to that Independent Bowl. I'll be lovely to watch it. But
yep, it's gonna be special. Yeah, you guys pretty much hit all of the shout outs and everything. We have first and foremost, want to shout out Wyatt Effler was the name of the kid who was 6 years old and at the University of Minnesota Children's Hospital, who was able to catch the broadcast on Friday with his mom and such with that bone marrow transplant and everything. Shout out again to him for being a trooper and
stay strong, kid.
Yeah, stay strong. Big thing there. Once again, last week, the news was tough, especially for me. I was visiting doctoral programs, and pretty much I was in between phone calls, like in my hotel rooms in Knoxville and in Tuscaloosa, and driving back and over to Pennsylvania. It was just, even when I'm on vacation, I had to answer James's phone calls. Like I was very this close to just being like, okay, I'll talk to James later. But I knew just because of everything going on that week, it's like I can't just put this off. I gotta talk to James and get the latest updates and everything. Like even I'm walking to downtown Pittsburgh with my friends because we're visiting on Wednesday, and he calls in like, okay, I gotta answer this, and then he quickly said stuff. I was like, all right, well, and then he called me back later about stuff, but. Yeah, shout out to the
got to keep your man in the loop.
Right. Which he could do over text, but he doesn't. Shout out to the parents, the players, the coaches who have sent emails, who have called and texted John to protest this decision. Shout out to all those people who have gone forward with that and told him that this decision is wrong. Shout out to those of you who have stood by us throughout all of this. Again, since 2014, 8-Man Extreme has broadcasted the state championship for Tennessee 8-Man football, and the hope is that streak continues next week. If it doesn't, then it's just more reason not to cover the TSIAA anymore. And in the teams involved, you hate it for the kids, especially because they are the lowest at the their voices heard the least in all of this. But if it's what has to be done to make a stand and say we're not going to tolerate this behavior anymore, then that's what has to happen, and hopefully more people will protest. And maybe they'll form a new conference or restart football in the TSAACS. We'll see how that goes. But shout out again to the Freedom Cowboys, and especially to the athletic director, Kevin Gochman, especially because, as James mentioned, in the past, we went down there last year, and the experience wasn't what we were expecting in 2020, but with the Cardinal coach, Gochman was very accommodating. He laid out everything up front to us, and when we were on site, he was just everything up until about an hour before kickoff, where he had to start focusing on the coaching. He was helpful. He was always there saying, "Do you guys need a table? Do you guys want to do this setup? Can we rearrange stuff? We want to work with you on this." He was so accommodating, and every Freedom person we interacted with was so pleasant and wonderful. Even the ones who were on the bleachers next to us, they were having some fun interactions with us while we were trying to call the game and such. But it was a really good experience down in Huntsville this time. And
they make it even more fun.
Yeah, they make it even more fun, and I'm sure that James and the rest of the 8-Man Extreme crew will be back to Huntsville in the future. I can promise that.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess especially Another shout out as well to Ronnie Perkins and the officiating the MSOA, because they've handled this situation with grace and dignity as much as they could with Hugh Harris and everything. They've even said officials, because they didn't have the ability for instant replay at the Lancaster game. They didn't have the ability to, go back and watch replays or any of that stuff. They have to, from what I've heard, trying to get film from any of the coaches is extremely difficult. So I hope they're able to get that, especially with us not being there in terms of playoff assignments. But it's that's what it is on there. And I guess the only thing I could think of is shout out to John Horner for showing me how to be an actual leader, how to be a better leader to other people around me, showing me what not to do. Because lead by example, lead by better examples. Those are all the shout-outs I have for this week, I believe. James, you got anything else? Brandon,
Get merch.
Yeah.
Get the
merch. Yeah. James,
Buy all
you got
3 shirts.
anything else before we sign off, James?
No, y'all just about got it.
All right, that is going to do it for Extreme Talk, presented by GracePointe Healthcare, fueled by Fairlife Core Power Protein, financially supported in part by First Horizon, and sponsored by Crumble Cookies and Iceberg Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. For Audrey Green on the other side of the camera, for Jerry Jr., for Monica Shannon from afar, Brendan Daniel, and James, I'm Spencer Thompson saying thank you for tuning in to Extreme Talk. We'll see you for the Independence Bowl on Friday and the Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights hosting the Vikings on Saturday.
See ya!